Owning and maintaining a blog for a long term can be a really complex and a painful process, because first you need to know what your content idea is, how you can write the content for a long term. Second, which is a bit more technical and also requires money, because you need to choose the hosting services where you can run your own blog so that it constantly serves your audience 24/7. And the third one is like the benefit which you will eventually see when you'll start writing your own blog is your networking, your knowledge sharing, your social recognition, and your documentation. So these are the benefits which you'll eventually see once you'll start putting down more content onto your blog. Hello, myself Rahul Wagh, and today we are going to talk all the 3 points which I had just mentioned to you, because I have been owning my own blog from the last 4 years and I have seen millions of search and impressions coming onto my own blog through organic search. If you're planning to maintain or create your own blog, then this could be a really good useful guide for you, because I have gone through all of these processes in the past 4 years. And also we are going to talk about the crucial process, which is like hosting services, how to choose the hosting services for maintaining your own blog. In my case, I have been using the UpCloud as my preferred service for hosting my own blog. And why I have chosen the UpCloud for hosting my own blog? The first one is the fast and reliability. I want my blog to be accessible really fast in a lightning fast speed, so that user doesn't have to wait for a long time to go through the pages and navigate around my blog. So that's the one part which is really important for me. Second is about the pricing. Since my audience is little bigger and I have a very organic search which is coming onto my blog, so I don't really want to shoot on my bills. So I just want to optimize my bills based on the usage and the performance of my website. So that's where I just get the price to the performance ratio really good onto the UpCloud. Also, UpCloud has a very developer friendly plans which starts from 4.5 euros, so which you can just use and give it a try. Also, they have a 50 euro credit for your 7 days if you're just a beginner and just getting yourself started and you want to try the UpCloud for the first time. I'll also put the promo code into the description section so you can use that one also. Let's get back to the topic and how I designed my blog. So initially I started with the WordPress, then eventually I noticed that WordPress gives me a very limited option, and also it requires a database in the backend to support and run my own blog. So what I did a little bit more research, and then eventually I found out that my requirement is I'm not running any multimedia site where I need to run hundreds and thousands of videos. I don't do e-commerce on my website. So my content is pretty much static, where a user wants to read and just read about the various topics on the DevOps and cloud. So my requirement was quite simple, and WordPress was like an overkill for my requirement. So that's where I found a very open source tool, which is Gohugo. And this Gohugo is world's fastest framework for developing your blog and website. And I totally agree with them, because their framework is too quick to run and deploy your website or a blog. So that's where I started using the Gohugo for maintaining and developing my blog. And there is no strict requirement on any hosting services. For example, I have been using UpCloud for deploying and running my own blog. So Gohugo can run very smoothly on UpCloud without any hassle, because you don't need to install any software to run your website on if you are using the Gohugo. You can just simply extract the HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and then deploy on any server. So that's why I feel Gohugo was a really good fit for my blog, and that's why I just started exploring the Gohugo way of maintaining and building my own blog. Okay, so what you need to get yourself started with the Gohugo. So the only requirement with the Gohugo is you need to install the Gohugo onto your local work machine, whether it's your laptop, whether it's a Mac OS, whether it's a Windows machine, or if you are using Linux. So you just need to install Gohugo onto your laptop so that you can start writing your own blog post and testing your own blog post which you have written onto your local machine. As you can see, there are various installation options which are available from Gohugo based on the operating system. So just choose whatever operating system you are using and get Gohugo installed onto your work machine. The next thing which you also need is a GitHub repository. So a GitHub repository is necessary because that's where you will be storing all your blog post in a Markdown language. So here you can see this is the GitHub repository where I keep on writing, committing and pushing my blog post into this particular format. And the format is the Markdown format, which I can show you. So here if you go into the content section and here go into the post section, so here you can see various topics and categories. So let's open one of them, and here you can see, so this is a one blog post which I have written, which is in Markdown language, and it is stored in the form of this MD file, which is a Markdown file, onto my GitHub repository. So this is the very safest option which I found. You can create your own private repository. You can just commit and push those changes into this particular GitHub repository, and your blog post will always be saved. It doesn't matter if you accidentally delete or if your server is down, then still you can deploy and recreate all of those blog posts in a few seconds. The next thing is how I write my own blog post locally before publishing, and how do I test it. So this is the GitHub repository which I just shown to you. So just clone that GitHub repository, and in this GitHub repository you will find that this is the content section where I'm putting all of my posts. But the key thing is, how can I run the whole website locally onto my laptop? So I'm assuming that you have already installed Gohugo, which is a primary requirement. So after installing the Gohugo, you just need to go to the terminal. I'll just clear the screen, and you just be into the path where your whole GitHub repository is cloned. So this is the path of my whole GitHub repository where all the blog posts lie. So here I'll just clear the screen, and here you need to run the command Gohugo serve. So I'm assuming that you have already installed Gohugo onto your laptop or machine, and after that you can just run this command Gohugo serve. And once you hit on it, then it will just run the Gohugo server, and then it will just publish your whole website onto this particular port, which is localhost 1313. So just copy this particular link and go to your browser, and in the new tab you just paste the URL, and here you can see your whole website is available, or your whole blog is available locally onto your laptop, so that you can just write a new blog post and publish and see if it is working or not. For example, I'll just let you know that how I edit my own blog post. So let's take this particular example. So here is the topic, which is Ansible handler explain, real world use case and example. So here just go back, and this is the Markdown file for my blog, and here I can just simply type test over here, just save it and go to the page and refresh it. It is automatically refreshed, and here you can see the blog post has been updated. And similarly, if you go and take a look over here, then whole blog post I have written into the Markdown language. And Markdown language is really simple. You just need to follow few syntax, and you will just get the hang of this Markdown language. So I'll just give you a few tips over here. So if you want to put a header 2, then you just need to put 2 hash. Here you can see these are the 2 hash, and it will make the header, which you can see over here. So that here it is introduction, and if I remove 1 hash, then it will become a h1 header. And here you can see the font size has been increased. So this Markdown language is really simple and easy to understand. And if you'll just follow the Markdown instruction, then you can pretty much recreate this whole blog post. And once you're done with your blog post, then just do the git commit and push, and it will be published onto your GitHub repository. Okay, so now you might be a little confused that, okay, you have written the blog post, you have tested the blog post, but you also said you don't need to install anything. So that's correct. You don't need to install anything apart from installing the Gohugo onto and only onto your local working machine, not onto the hosting service provider, which is UpCloud in my case. So I'm not going to install anything onto the UpCloud. But here I'm just gonna commit and push and copy the public HTML file, which is a very basic file which doesn't need any special software to run. So I'm just gonna copy the HTML file from my local machine to the UpCloud server. So how to generate those HTML file which doesn't require any software installation? So for that, Gohugo provides a certain command. So again, open the terminal. I'll just close this one. I'll clear the screen. And here you can see in this folder directory, there is no public directory. I'll explain what this public directory is. So here you just need to first type the command Gohugo, and here it will create a public directory in this particular location. So here you can see this public directory has been created, and if you open this public directory, then here you will find all the posts which you have written so far. So in this public directory you will find a folder, and inside the folder you will find the index.html, and this index.html contains your whole blog post, and you can simply copy this index.html onto your desired hosting service provider, which is in my case UpCloud, and this index.html will easily render over there. So that's how easy it is to deploy your website onto any hosting service provider. Now, once you have generated all the HTML file for your website or a blog, then what I have done is that I have created one more GitHub repository where I'm storing all of these HTML file, because there are lots of HTML file which I need to move to my UpCloud server. So for that, the easiest way is I have just copied all of this HTML onto this particular, not copied, but I have pushed into this particular GitHub repository. So along with the my original GitHub repository, I have also created one more GitHub repository where I'm storing all of the static content, which is HTML files. So this GitHub repository contains all the HTML content of my blog post in a static format. So this is the GitHub repository which I will be cloning onto my UpCloud server to just deploy this HTML pages. Alright, so till now we have seen the local setup on how to writing and generating the HTML pages, but the tricky thing is now how it will get worked on onto the UpCloud server, and how will this whole website will be get deployed onto the UpCloud server. So here is the very simple flow which I could put you, and which you will just give you the clarity, this whole setup, how it will getting deployed onto the UpCloud. So here on the left hand side you will see a user which will make a request onto my domain registrar, because I also need to buy a domain, which is a one-time activity which I need to do. So a user will enter a domain name, and that request will go to the domain registrar, and from that domain registrar that request will look for the entry of that DNS, and that in that DNS it will find an entry for a load balancer, and this load balancer is running onto my UpCloud. And this load balancer will also have a server where all the HTML files of my blog will be residing. So a request will generate, and that will go to domain registrar, and from there this will be forwarded to the load balancer, and from load balancer it will eventually end up onto the server, and that's where our request will be served to the end user. To accomplish that, what we will need over here is we will need a server, we will need a load balancer, and also we will need a updation into the DNS configuration of my domain registrar from where I have purchased my domain. Let's start with the deploying our resources and hosting our website onto the UpCloud, and for that you need to have an account with the UpCloud. So the sign up process is pretty simple. So you just head over to this website. I'll post into the description section of this link. Click on this sign up link over here, key in few of the details which are really basic one: first name, last name, email address, just do the CAPTCHA verification and also the email verification, and then you're good to go with your UpCloud account. Once you have done the sign up, then this is the default dashboard of your UpCloud account, and here you will find all the options for a server, network and load balancer. But before we deploy any resource, let's take a look onto the networking layout, how our resource is going to deploy. So here you can see there is a private network, and inside the private network you will be deploying your server. So this private network has to have some CIDR range, which we also call it as IP ranges, through which those IPs will be assigned to those servers. So for that, first we need to create our private network. So for that, go back to your dashboard, click on network, go to private network, create on SDN network, and here you need to enter the name of network. So I'm just going to put blog network, and this is the IP range which I'm assigning to my blog network. But also you need to choose the location. So I'm based in Nordics region, so I'm just choosing the nearest location to me, which is Finland, Helsinki. And key point over here is you just need to keep the same location for other resources as well, so that your whole setup works. Otherwise there might be some difficulties you might face. Okay, so I'm just keeping the same location, the Finland Helsinki location, and then click on create network. So now my my private network has been created. The next thing which we need to create is our server. So I will just go back to my dashboard, and here on the server, just click on this server link over here, click on deploy server. And here we again need to choose the location first. So I'm just gonna choose Finland Helsinki location. After that, we need to choose the plan. So I'm just gonna choose like a 2 cores 4 GB. In your case, if you have like a more higher traffic, then you can choose more higher CPUs and those plans, and then accordingly the pricing will be charged for you. And if you have very minimal traffic, then you can also start with the very basic 1 core 1 GB memory and 25 GB of storage. So I'll just start with the 2 cores 4 GB and 80 GB of storage. After that, if you need additional storage, then you can increase that additional storage from here as well. Automated backup, and if you need a certain automated backup which needs to be taken care by UpCloud, then you can just enable those automated backup for your website as well. Okay, next thing, I need to choose the operating system. So I will just go with the Ubuntu, because that's where I will be but I will be putting my HTML content, and I feel Ubuntu could be a quite fit for my requirement. And in your case, there are various options: CentOS, Debian, Windows, Rocky Linux. So you can choose other flavors as well. It's up to you. Network section. So we already created a network, which is a my blog network. So we just need to attach that network to this server. So click on attach. Here you can see this network name is popping over here. So select that one, click on attach network over here. And after that, you just need to look for metadata service. Just keep the thing default, because those are some API services. And after that, there is a login method, which is a bit crucial because that's where we need to generate the SSH keys for your server. Now, how to generate the SSH keys? So here you can see you need to key in. If you click on add new, then here you need to key in the SSH keys. So SSH keys are the public key and private key. So that key pair you need to generate, and here in the UpCloud you need to put the public key, and private key you will keep it for yourself. But before that, you need to generate the key. So here is the option for entering the public key, but let me generate the keys for that. So here the command which you need to run is SSH keygen, and that will help you to generate the key. So here I'm just gonna hit enter the file name. So here I'm just gonna put, for example, UpCloud keys. And then do you want passphrase? I'm just not gonna put any passphrase, and then hit enter. And here you can see our keys has been generated. So let's take a look. I'll just run this command. Probably I should run from here. Run the ls command. Here you can see it's not onto this particular location, but it's into the current path. And here you can see the UpCloud keys has been generated, which is this one is our private key and this one is our public key. Okay, so what you need to do over here, once you have generated those keys, I'll just clear the screen once again, and I'll run the ls command. And here you can see this is your private key and this is your public key. So just take a look onto the public key part, and I'll just put keys and .pub. So you just need to copy this content from here and paste it over here into this particular box. And once you put this, just assign some name over here, and then your keys are associated with your server. And once you save this key, and that key will pop up over here. So here you can see there are multiple keys which I have been working and I have been using with the UpCloud. So now I have shown you the SSH key generation process through which you can just add that key. For this demo, I'm just going to use the existing one, which is this one, which I have been using through various projects. So I will just stick with my old key, which is over here. After that, the initialization script, if you have certain script which you need to get it installed, then you can just write it down. Otherwise, you're just good to go with your server. Then click on deploy over here. And it will take a couple of minutes to get this server deployed, and we'll try to access this server using our private key. All right, so after a couple of minutes, my server is up and running, and here you can see this is the IP of my server, which I will use to access my server. Okay, so here are a few things which you can verify that yeah, the server is up and running, your IP is getting assigned, you have the UUID, and apart from that everything looks correct. So let's go ahead and click on use this IP address to connect to this server. To connect, I will open my terminal, and here I'm just going to use the command which is SSHI, and after here I'm just going to specify my private key, and after that I'm just gonna enter the username which is root and the IP address. Make sure you are in the directory where this particular key is located. Okay, and after that you just click on enter and type yes to connect, and here you can see you are just into your server. I'll just clear the screen, and this is the user which is root, and this is the server name which you can copy and verify over here as well. And here you can see this is the same server name. So now your server is up and running. The next thing which we are gonna see, we just need to have an Apache 2 server which can just render HTML pages. So next thing we are gonna install is Apache 2 onto this particular server. Okay, so first thing I'm just gonna run over here is sudo apt update so that I can update all the package manager of this particular system. I'll clear the screen. The next command which I'm just going to run is to install the Apache 2. I just made a typo over here, so it should be sudo. Type yes. Okay, so now my Apache 2 has been installed. Let's check the status. And it's up and running, and I'll just clear it, and I can run the command curl localhost, and yeah, I can see that I'm getting some output, so which means our Apache 2 is up and running. Okay, so I'll clear this one. The next thing is we need to clone our GitHub repository of our HTML pages. So as I told you, this is the repository where all the blog posts are residing. So I just need to clone this repository onto this particular Linux server. To clone the repo, go to your repository, click on this particular URL, go to your terminal over here, type the command git clone, paste the URL, and here you can see our GitHub repository has been cloned, which is over here. So here I'm just going to go to the directory, clear the screen, and just run the command to verify the content, and here you can see all of my HTML blog post has been copied over here. Now once you have cloned your HTML repository, now this repository is available onto your server which is on UpCloud. Now the thing which you need to make over here is you need to copy all of those HTML files to the default location of your Apache 2 server. So here I would like to show you. So if you run the cat command onto the part where www.html, and here you will find a index.html page. So this is the default HTML page which is getting served from our Apache 2. Okay, so now we need to replace this index.html and this on this particular path, basically on this path where www.html. So on this particular location, I'm just gonna paste all of my content of my static website, and that's from that location our website will be served. Okay, so for that I'll clear the screen and I'll check I'm into the static blog repository or the folder which I have created. Here I need to run the command which is cp current directory recursively. I just need to copy everything, and then I need to move to where www.html and then hit enter. And now it will move all of those content from my static block folder to the var.www.html. So which I can run the command ls lart and then go to var www and html, and here you can see all of the content has been copied to this particular location. And after that I'll just clear the screen, run the command curl localhost, and here you can see some of the content has been replaced, and I'll just try to pick. Here you can see this is the name of my website or the blog. So I can see the content has been replaced and now my website has been properly running onto the server. The next thing which we need to set up is our load balancer. So here you can see my server is up and running. My blog is up and running over there. Now we need to configure this particular load balancer. And to configure that, again, go to the home page of your UpCloud account, which is this one over here. And here onto the load balancer section, just click on this load balancer section, click on create new load balancer, choose the location. I'm just going to choose Finland Helsinki location. Choose the plan. If you are using development, production and production M. If you have a higher requirement, then you can just choose for some higher version. So for this particular demo and deployment, I'm just going to stick with the development plan. After that, I'll just choose the service name. I'm just going to choose the service name like my blog load balancer. Click on next. I want to have a public access. That's true. After that, I need to attach the private network. So I'm just going to select the network, which is blog network, and click on attach. After that, click on next over here. The next thing is the backend. So backend is where we are going to attach our server. So if you take a look over here, then this is our backend. So this is our load balancer and this is the backend which we need to create, in which I need to attach this particular server. So what I'll do, I'll just click on create a new backend, and here I need to enter the name of my backend. So I'm just gonna enter the name. So I'm just gonna put my blog backend, add a member, and here you will see the list. Here you can see the server, which I'm just gonna attach. And the port, I'm just gonna stick with the port 80 because that's where it is running. And here you can enter the name. So you can put my blog backend server. Click on add member over here. After that, DNS resolver we are gonna fix later. And apart from that, TLS not connection, just keep everything default. Attach certificate, which also I'm just going to do later because we can attach those certificates also later for HTTPS. And apart from that, properties, just keep everything default over here. You don't need to modify anything special over here. After that, just click on create over here. The next thing which we need to set up is the front end. So we have set up the load balancer, we have set up the backend, and the final thing is front end, where we will set up our certificates and the certificate to enable the HTTPS here onto our blog. So here I'll just click next over here, and here we will find the front end option. So I'm just going to go with the round robin algorithm over here, click on front end. And here I'm just going to enter the name. So let's put the name over here. So I'll just put my blog front end. Here I'm just going to go with HTTPS, and here I'm just going to enter the port 443. And public access, I'm just going to enable the public access. And here I'm just going to attach the private network. So select the network which we have created, which is this one. Click on attach. And here this is the certificate part which I was talking about. So click on attach certificate over here. Click on add certificate, and here you need to enter the name. So I'm just going to put my blog Gohugo cert. Certificate type, I'm just going to keep it dynamic over here. Click on RSA. Here we need to enter the domain name. So I'm just going to put the name of my domain, which is gohugo.org. Click on add over here, and then click on create. And here you can see our certificate has been created and attached. And after that, you just need to click on create the front end. There we need to attach the default backend. Here just click on edit, and here select the backend, which I forgot to attach it. So select the backend also, which we have just created in this third step. Okay, so now backend has been attached to our front end. We have set the ports, we have created the certificate, and then we just need to click on create over here, and then create a load balancer. This is how our whole load balancer setup will finish. So click on load balancer. And here you can see the load balancer is right now into setting up server mode. So it will take a couple of minutes to set up the whole load balancer. I'll be back once this whole setup is up and running. Alright, so after a couple of minutes, my load balancer is now into running green state, which you can see over here. And this is the load balancer name, or the DNS name for, or the host name for my load balancer. And once this is green, then the next and the final step is to update the DNS configuration. So which you can see over here into this diagram. So we have set up the network, we have set up the server, we have set up the load balancer, which is green, and now the DNS configuration. So for that, what I need to do, I just need to copy this host name, which is our public host name. So copy this particular one from here. And now you need to go to your domain registrar from where you have purchased your domain. So I'll just go over to Google domain, because that's from where I have purchased my domain, and just click on this Google domain. And okay, so now Google domain has sold their services to Squarespace. So now the same domain has been transferred to the Squarespace. So I'll just move over there and go to my managed domains over here. And here I just need to find the domain, which is this one, gohugo.org. So click on this one, go to DNS setting. And here we need to update this particular CNAME record over here. So click on edit and then click on remove this one and paste the domain name or the host name of our load balancer, which is this one. Click on save over here. And here you can see this is the load balancer host name, which I just copied from here, and just double check it. Yeah, that's the correct host name. And now we have updated the domain registrar, which is this one. Okay, so after that, now the thing is, this domain propagation or the DNS propagation will take certain amount of a time. It might take a 15 minutes, 20 minutes, or maybe 24 hours. It just depends upon how fast your domain registrar propagates those DNS changes. Once this is successful, then you should be able to access your website with the domain, which is our gohugo.org. So I will just wait for certain time, and I'll be back once this whole DNS propagation has worked, and then we can see how we are able to access our blog with our domain name. Here you can see the end result. So here you can see this is the domain which we have just configured, and this blog is accessible via this domain, and this whole blog is deployed onto our UpCloud server. Let's open the view of the blog post and see if everything is loading properly or not. So I'll just start clicking on some of the blog post links. So here you can see everything is loading fine, and all the images CSS has been loaded over here. Although this is a static blog, which I generally prefer, but in case if you are having a WordPress website, then also you can deploy it onto the UpCloud. You can use some suitable databases which is needed for your WordPress setup, and then you can just deploy your own blog onto the UpCloud. I hope you enjoyed the today's session on how to set up your own blog on the cloud platform such as UpCloud. And if you have certain question related to this whole setup on how to get yourself started on setting up a blog, then put down into the comment section and I'll try to answer it. So see you into the next session of DevOps and similar topics. Till then, take care and bye bye.